to you live from the Magna Legal Studios here in my lovely home in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. That's exit 4 on the New Jersey Turnpike. I grew up on exit 9, for those of you that don't know me, which is by Rutgers University, considered a suburb of New York. Exit 4, a suburb of Philadelphia, is somewhat considered a cultural wasteland. But I'm happy I live here. I like it. And I'm on, I don't even know what day it is, but we're all in the same place working from our home offices. And I'm trying to enjoy myself and get my work done. And it's been quite an experience. I hope that everybody is well. I'm sad that we can't see each other in person. I'm sad that we had to cancel our March Madness Las Vegas conference. I was looking forward to seeing so many of you at the event. It was, going to be great. I promise you that we are rescheduled for 2021 at the Aria Hotel and Casino. We'll be back in Las Vegas for the March Madness 2021 event, and hopefully no COVID, because I hate COVID-19. I hate it, and I'm sure all of you do too. We're also getting, we also sadly had to reschedule our May conference, which was going to take place in Miami, the Battle of the Experts, co-hosted with Bob Kopka from Kopka, Pinkus, and Dolin. We decided to move the event to October, and so we'll just keep our fingers crossed that things will be looking better, and we'll all be able to get together in a responsible way, have a great conference, and have some great networking opportunities. Before I pass the baton to Bob and the star-studded cast, I just want to let everybody know that I want to thank myself as a sponsor, and I want to thank Kopka, Pinkus, and Dolin as a sponsor. We're both up and running. This is me doing my shameless plug. Magna Legal Services has been providing online services for the past 13 years, both in the deposition space as well in the jury research space. So, we are available. We do want to work. We want to help you all with the continuity of litigation and business, which I'm sure everybody's like-minded in that regard. So, how do you reach us? You dial us at 866-624-6221, and you ask for scheduling, or you ask to speak to a jury consultant, and we'd be happy to help you and work with you. And we'd be happy to lend you some of our expertise to help you facilitate some of your own meetings within the firm, and where we can, we'll do it at no charge. But our online deposition service is totally free of charge, and you just need to pay for the court reporter. So we are open for business, and and all the law firms out there are open for business. We're all trying to get by. So thank you for your support, and thank you for coming online today. I want to make sure I've covered everything. One quick thing, there's a chat function, and I'm sure that our moderator will talk about that in a second, but we'll be taking questions via chat, and Ross Suter and Bob Kopka will try to answer them in the order that they come in, and when we have time to be able to address them. So feel free to chat in your questions. With that being said, you've got my props. You can see I've got my Lysol wipes, and I got my Lysol can. I've got my Clorox wipes in my pocket. I hate COVID-19. I'm cleaning everything all the time. I just want to be able to pick my nose in peace. I can't wait for that day to come up. So without further ado, and no more blabbering from me, I did say Magna Legal Services, right? I got my Magna Legal Services jacket on. I want to pass the baton to Bob Kopka. So I first would like to introduce Bob Kopka, our co-moderator for today from Kopka, Pinkus, and Dolin. Welcome, Bob Kopka. I want to also introduce and welcome retired Judge Mike Panter. He is our mediator panelist. Welcome, Judge Mike Panter. I also would like to introduce Dan Brunson, Chief Legal Officer at AACC. We're really looking forward to receiving some of his expertise on the industry right now. And I would also like to introduce our special guest. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you probably learned about it last minute. I have the not real Dr. Evil participating today, going to take on Mr. Kopka in a little mock deposition. So that should be really interesting to see. So welcome, Dr. Evil.
Hello.
Hello. And last but not least, and Dr. Evil, I think you got to turn your video on. And last but not least, I want to introduce you to my two colleagues who have been working, tirelessly through this entire, COVID crisis and educating, our clients and prospects about the online services. Dr. Rachel Colangelo, she's a nationally managing director of our jury research division. And Ross Suter, Esquire, is a director and vice president of litigation solutions, and he has taken it upon himself to educate the masses about how to conduct online depositions, mediations, arbitrations, hearings, etc. So I am going to shut my mouth now, Bob, as promised, and I'm going to pass the baton to you, and may everybody have a great webinar seminar, and I hope to see everybody October 6th and 7th at the W in South Beach for Battle of the Experts in person. Thank you.
And my wishes to everybody, that everybody should stay safe and stay isolated, stay quarantined, and hopefully, to Peter's point, this will all be behind us in some matter of months. But we are in this situation. It is a national crisis. It's not just a crisis in our industry. And I think that this kind of a webinar is something that is so important so that everybody in our industry recognizes the tools that we have in our toolbox to continue to work. And given not only the medical situation in the country, but also the financial and the economic situation in the country, I think it's imperative that all of us do everything we can to keep our economy going. And certainly that's part of the conversation that we're going to have today. It's imperative that we continue to move cases to resolution, that we move our cases for our clients. And we're going to hear from one of our clients and somebody who's got really kind of the perspective of so many clients in our industry, Dan Brunson, Chief Legal Officer for American Access. We're also going to hear from Dr. Colangelo and also Judge Panter about some of the challenges. And I think that I'm hoping that, and I believe that, we're going to get some really good insight into some of the differences, an online platform for depositions, mediations, arbitrations, the different things we can do online, and really pick up some good ideas. And we'll start really I'll be talking to Ross about, for those of us that have not done this before, just the mechanics of it, how we can get this done, to illustrate a little bit about how it's done, and to really ease some of our anxiety over the loss of the ability to sit in a room with somebody and take a deposition, or to sit in a room with somebody and conduct a mediation. So that's the agenda for the day, is to kind of take a look at what the technology is and learn a little bit about how that works. Then to look to turn to our experts and to really gain some insight into some of the methods that we're going to be using and some strategies that I think can be helpful. Like Peter, I think that like he said, I think we're in a new age, and I want to introduce a new concept. I know it's going to sound a little strange. It's almost a little political, but I want to introduce hashtag impeach the deposition, hashtag impeach the mediation. Now, I'm not trying to be political here. You know what I mean by impeach. Kick them out of office. Remove them from office. We're going to remove the deposition from office. We're going to put it online. We're going to move the mediation from office. We're going to put it right here online. So, Ross, let's start with kind of an illustration, if you will. I'm going to turn it to you for a bit to show us how it works and how mechanically you can do mediations online.
Or depositions.
Depositions, yeah.
So, thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name, again, is Ross Suter. I'm with Magna. I've been here for about 12 years. Just so you know, this platform that we're using and we're going to be talking about today, called Magna Legal Vision, we oftentimes refer to it as MLV, so I might do that periodically throughout. But we've been using this platform for close to 10 years now. For those of you in the Philadelphia area, you're aware that there are some directives from the courts that you need to offer online remote deposition if you're going outside the city limits. So that's one of the many reasons why we have been using this platform. So it's a time-tested, stable type of platform that we've been using forever. We'll talk about online mediations. Rachel will talk about some of the online jury consulting options and arbitration options. And there's also a lot of online language services options as well. But really what I'm going to be focusing on right now or today is the depositions. So in order to do a deposition remotely, you don't need that much in the terms of technology. If you have a computer, even a tablet, an iPhone or some type of smartphone device, a webcam, phone line, and a lot of you may be using the audio through your computer and the microphone through your computer, any type of communication device like that, as well as obviously internet connectivity. If you have that, you can do everything we need in order to hold this deposition. If you don't, we can send it to you. All right. So there is what we call flight packs. It's going to give you all the technology that you need to be able to hold the deposition. So nothing should be able to hold you back or somebody on the other side or a deponent from being able to do a deposition or hold a deposition remotely through Magna Legal Vision. You can join from everywhere. There's people probably right now that are in their homes. There's people that may still be in their offices. You can join from on the road, out of your car, wherever you need to. As Peter mentioned, this is powered by Zoom. There's a lot more functionality to it. And really what also it adds to you or what we give is an MLV text. So you're going to have text support from start to finish. So up to 100 parties, which is the vast majority of depositions. And you'll be able to seamlessly show, annotate, mark exhibits, which I think Bob will be able to demonstrate to you during his deposition as well. We can record using a videographer. If we have a videographer, they can go on and off the record, and you're going to be able to use that at trial. Everything is encrypted, it's secure, and we'll do testing with you ahead of time. So typically, this is what it looks like. For those of you who use Zoom, it should look very, very familiar. You come into the platform, we can do a roll call, we can make sure everybody who needs to be there is there. And then the rather neat thing about this is you can actually lock the meeting down so nobody can join afterwards. Once we're locked it down, we can begin. And you can change the way it looks. So if you prefer to have the deponent large on your screen, you can do that. If you want to have all the defense and see all the attorneys and everybody on the right, typically the court reporter will be there. They come in remotely as well. They swear in the deponent, and then they can go off camera, and we leave it to whatever attorneys, whether you want to have one attorney there, two attorneys, however many you want. So you can take this deposition, and this guy might look familiar to you there being deposed. You can bring up documents, all right? There's many different ways. Because of the way the system's structured, you can bring documents up using that share screen from your own computer. You can have somebody else from your office do it for you if they're logged in. Or there's trial techs now that have time since there's no trials, and they can come in and assist you as well with the technology, such as this example would be running trial director. You can go back in, see everything. If you have an expert witness deposition, you can have them, and you can toggle between the views. So you can bring up the documents, and you can interact with the documents. There's an annotation function, so they can highlight, they can mark, they can put X's, they can do a whole host of different interactive type of things that they're going to be able to illustrate what's happening. So if you go up to the annotation, you can just go and you can direct somebody and say, hey, I want you to be looking here, and that can happen. Or you can have the drawing function, and that can happen. And I think Bob maybe used some of these as well. But as you have this look right now, you can actually toggle between, and you can look at it from different viewpoints. So if you want to have the smaller document and the larger deponent, or vice versa, you can go back and forth. You can split them up so however the usage is. So again, if we are recording this, we can record it in any different view that you would like. The really neat thing too about this is when they're recording and the videographer is participating, they are capturing everything like this on the screen. So not only are you getting the opponent's video feed, but you can have the document that they're referencing up as well. So there's a lot of utility with this. One of the questions I get a lot is, well, okay, what should I do about the documents? I will tell you, our recommendation is send the documents ahead of time if you can. we can get them to the court reporter, or whoever can get them to the court reporter, and they can use that, or they can have them pre-mark them or mark them as the deposition goes, and you can share your screen. The trial tech or the depo manager, they can also do the same thing for you as it's going. But oftentimes things come up during a deposition that you might not have expected. You are able still to share your exhibits via the chat bar. So much like we have a chat bar now in this webinar, there's a chat bar as well. So everything down the bottom you will have and you can see. So not only can you share your screen like I am doing now, but you can have a chat. So you can have a chat with everybody with private messaging. We actually can control how you would like that set up, whether you don't want it to have private messaging. But if you open it up and you do, then you can share documents with individual people, or you can share it with the greater group, including the court reporter, at which time they can download it and attach it to the record as well. So there's a lot of utility that goes on with this. There's a lot of behind the scenes. You know, we're not leaving you. We're not just dumping you on a platform and saying, hey, good luck. We are giving you some technologists who are going to be able to help you with all that. And then if you need assistance with your documents, we can help you with that as well. So that's really it. I will mention the real price that I wanted to point out on this is we're offering this free. We want to help everyone. As everybody's been talking about, we're looking for ways to be able to continue to work and be able to continue to do what we need to do on a daily basis. So the Magna Legal Vision connection, we're not charging for. That's a free service for you. And then obviously all the card charges would be with regards to the court reporter coming in. So with that, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to stop. I saw a couple chats pop in and see if there's anything that we need.
Okay. Let me before we wait, I have to start my video. Let me go off our script a little bit and ask that if we can see Judge Panter, if you can turn on your video. Judge Panter is joining us today in the midst of a current ongoing mediation, and informed us before we started that he has to get back to the mediation early. So before we do the demonstration of the deposition, which we had planned on doing and we will do, I do have some things I want to talk to you about, Judge Panter. And so before you leave, if you don't mind, we'll kind of move to that. Judge Panter is a trial judge at Circuit Court of Cook County, a motion judge as well, and currently serves as a mediator in Chicago. We mediate cases together. You've mediated a couple of cases over this platform, the Zoom platform. First of all, how do you find it, and how do you find it different than an in-person mediation?
Well, thank you, Bob, and I'm glad to be here. You and I have had a lot of cases over the years, and it's always a joy to work with you. I like Zoom a lot, and I like remote mediation a lot, and I don't see any reason not to do a mediation merely because you're going to do it remotely. I think it can be every bit as effective.
Now, you know, one of the things that I always am intrigued by when I'm in a mediation is the mediator spends an hour with the plaintiff side and then 10 minutes with us and then an hour and a half with the plaintiff side. So I assume you're using that time to gain rapport, or maybe you can help us understand about that time. And then how does it work in a video format?
Sure. Yes, I have spent an hour or an hour and a half with the plaintiff, but I've also spent an hour and a half with the defense. One of the nice things is that you can have the whole defense team up on the screen. Everybody's pitching in and talking, and you're all working together to try to think things out. So I think you can communicate really well, and I think you can have, maybe not quite as much, but really 98%, I'd say.
So for a video mediation like this, again, thinking to the mediations that we've attended, oftentimes you have an opening statement. Now, from the defense perspective, we like using those opening statements. On the one hand, it's an opportunity to humanize the defense. On the other hand, it's also an opportunity to make sure that the plaintiff understands what they're in for, to show some toughness. Now, again, from a video perspective, what changes?
I think it's really the same. And the nice thing is it's so easy to make combinations of meetings. When I do mediations, I may be a little bit different from some of the other mediators because I really believe in, we talk about breakouts, but I believe in break-ins where you bring different people together. So maybe I want to have the plaintiff lawyer and the defense lawyer and me, but just the three of us talking. Or maybe I'll want to bring the defense lawyer in with the plaintiff lawyer and the plaintiff. Or maybe I'll want to have the adjuster and the defense attorney and the plaintiff lawyer and the plaintiff there. So there's every kind of combination, and it's easy to do that. And you can go back and forth, and I think it works pretty well.
Excellent. May I bring Dr. Colangelo into the conversation? Maybe you can turn your video on, because Dr. Colangelo is an expert is a jury consultant, an expert in dealing with juries, and obviously dealing with juries is no different than dealing with any individual in a mediation. You've got a party, you've got the attorneys, to Judge Panter's point, you've got the defense team, whether it's an insurance company or a self-insured corporation. What do you see as perhaps either the challenges or benefits of doing something by video as compared to in person?
I would completely agree with Judge Panter that once someone has actually tried out the online platform, it's not terribly different from being in person. Again, it's all about giving it a try and getting used to it, giving it some practice. So I think over the past couple of weeks, and sounds like the coming weeks and months, we will all be getting a lot of practice with these virtual platforms, Zoom, Magna Legal Vision, whatever it is. The more comfortable you are, the more in-person like something like this can feel. It's all about kind of staying engaged, staying focused and alert, just like you would if you were in a conference room with Judge Panter, and not, for example, if you're actually in your living room, getting too relaxed, too casual, and sort of disengaging from the process. I think if you make that choice, it can feel a little different, but if you choose to stay actively engaged, you're looking at the screen, you're looking into the camera at all times, the interaction can be almost the same as in person.
Any suggestions on looking right at the camera, looking right at the person? You'll notice I put a tie on today, even though I'm home. What about the way you dress? What about that intimidation factor? Anything like that?
I think you have to think about.
You should dress.
Let me ask Dr. Colangelo first. Oh, okay.
Oh,
go ahead,
okay.
Judge Panter.
Oh, okay.
That's
I think definitely you have to think about that stuff. And you have to think about how you look and what you wear, all those things. And Rachel will hopefully talk a little bit more about that. But I do think it is a little bit more relaxing. And it doesn't have quite the same stress. I mean, I'm in my house. I can go to the bathroom when I want. I can go get a Coca-Cola or do whatever I want. So, and I think it's a little bit more relaxing for everybody. And I think that has some benefits too. Interesting.
Dr. Colangelo?
I think that's a really great point. People can sort of settle in. They're less on edge in a setting like this, because most of us, if not all of us, are coming from the comfort of our own homes. But part of participating in a professional situation like this is also getting up, getting dressed, just as you would if you were going to walk into a conference room at Magna's office in Philadelphia, for example, or in Chicago, and Judge Panter's going to be there waiting for you. You want to present yourself like you would if you were in person. And I recommend always keeping yourself on camera. That's a really good way to keep everybody engaged, unless, of course, you're in a moment where maybe Judge Panter's in a different breakout room with the other group and you're sort of relaxing. But if you keep yourself on camera, you're sort of holding yourself accountable. You can't zone off. You can't look out the window. You can't sort of sit back and get too relaxed. It's a way to make sure that you're present and actively involved.
All right, I got one more, Judge Panter.
Sure.
You know, how many times do we settle the case at 4:45 because everyone needs to leave at 5 because someone has a plane to catch? I mean, we've been at it all day long, and it doesn't settle until the very last minute. On a video, we can just do it again tomorrow, perhaps.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something. I really like that. So, for example, what I can do is I like the idea of not having a fixed set time in which you have to smash it all in and you have to get it done by. Now, there is an advantage to it, I guess, but that 459 settlement always feels a little bit forced, and maybe you don't really, by 5:10, you're starting to wonder whether you did the right thing. What I like about this is you do have more time. It is easier. So I can start talking to the lawyers days before and start going over documents and maybe talk to the adjuster, maybe talk to the, and Zoom with them, and maybe even Zoom with the plaintiff beforehand, so that the actual time of the mediation is not as concrete and fixed. And yeah, we can go later. I can pick up the phone tomorrow and call them and do some more. So I like that a lot because it takes a lot of that artificial pressure out of it, and it lets people come to their decisions in a more natural and confirmed way.
Interesting. Let me bring Dan Brunson into the conversation, because another thing that we talked about, all three of us, is the time management aspect of it, which is to say that there is so much downtime during a mediation. When you're in the other room for an hour and a half, oftentimes we're just sitting around. I mean, we're chatting. It's nice to chat with you, Dan, when we're sitting around. But, when we're in a video chat room, other things can be accomplished. And I wonder if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've sat through mediations where, waiting for somebody like Judge Panter to come back. I like to have my laptop with me so that I can at least be checking emails or communicating with other people. Clearly, this would present an opportunity to get some work done, although I think you have to be careful. You still want to take the mediation seriously, right? And you don't want to just let yourself become too distracted. But certainly there's an opportunity to at least kind of stay in touch with what else is going on at the office. And that's really, really a big deal, especially if you would have traveled for that deposition. That would be really important. So kind of eliminates that distance.
You also have an opportunity to attend depositions you might not otherwise have attended at your level. You have other people going on your behalf. This way you can perhaps even just check in once in a while.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity for supervisors and managers, for adjusters, perhaps, if everybody's okay with that. I think it would be, maybe we wouldn't want to travel to a depo, but if we could watch, I think it helps us assess the case and maybe helps us reach settlement sooner, which is,
Excellent.
Big part of the goal, right?
That's the idea. Close the file. Well, Judge Panter, I know you have another deposition, mediation that you have to go to, so we'll excuse you and thank you and good luck. Hope you settle the case. Appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Bob.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
So, we went a little bit out of order, but I while I have you on the screen, Dan, I want to talk a little bit about this notion of taking depositions remotely. A lot of what we do as lawyers is investigation. The investigation can include just meeting with our insureds, talking to them, meeting with witnesses, talking to them, and certainly taking depositions. And, everything 2 weeks ago kind of came to a halt, a big standstill, kind of a crushing standstill. And now we're really looking for ways to continue to move the cases along. And I'd appreciate your perspective on what you expect of your attorneys during this time frame.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bob. Absolutely, you're right. The world came to a very sudden screeching halt that a lot of us didn't expect. My first, right out of the box, running part of a claims organization, the first goal is to make sure our people are safe, and then to make sure that my staff can be up and running, working from home. But as soon as that happens, as soon as we figure out, okay, we can do that, then we realize that we've got litigated claims that have got to move forward. And there's not a lot, I'm doing a lot of good having my staff at home if our law firms can't continue to litigate the cases. And so we immediately reached out to Magna and to try to figure out what our options were. Remote deposition, obviously, you say an investigation. Deposition's a key investigation tool, right? So that helps us evaluate the claim from our perspective. So again, to reach settlement. So we're really, really enthusiastic about remote deposition. We have reached out to all of our law firm partners in all of our states and asked them to work with Magna to get these set up. We are rescheduling depositions already on the books. And we've actually got a pretty positive response from plaintiffs' firms because I think they want to get things moving too. So we're actually pretty excited about it because, the end of the day, we need to move the claims forward. We have an obligation to resolve claims. And deposition obviously presents us with a lot of information that we need so we can properly evaluate those claims so we can make fair offers.
Yeah, one of the things that you and I talked about is the fact that new claims are coming in. And what happens to your claim professionals who have a significant pending to start with if they're not closing their files?
Well, right. This is sort of the thing when you work in a claims organization, we talk about productivity. And everybody wants to close as many as you open on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, right? And if you talk to anybody who's worked in a management capacity in claims, that's a big number. We need to be ready for whatever happens next, and we don't really know what that is. We know courts are slowing down. We know that some filings are down, some are not. Our pre-suit demands are actually going up right now. So we need to handle all that. And the last thing I want to have happen is the world turn back on in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever that is, and my team is crushed by work. I'd like to keep them happy. I'd like to keep them with a reasonable workload. And so doing everything we can to give your folks tools to help us move this along is going to help my folks hopefully move their files along, get them evaluated, and hopefully reach as many appropriate settlements as we possibly can.
Excellent. It occurs to me also, and nobody wants to, utilize a time like this to an advantage, if you will, but in a situation where people may be unemployed, there may be opportunities to settle cases, kind of like Christmas time, so to speak. When people are needing money, there's a good opportunity to reach out and make offers.
Well, I think, we should always take any time that we have available to review our files. And we're certainly doing that because, like I said, we have seen a little bit of a lull in new suits, and try to use it as an opportunity to reach out to people, reevaluate our claims, get fresh offers out if that's appropriate, reiterate offers. We're absolutely doing that, trying to do it in a creative way, trying to do it respectfully. We don't want to pressure anybody to do something they're not ready to do, obviously. But if everybody else is maybe experiencing a little downtime too, maybe it's a good time to have a conversation.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for that. I wanted to bring Dr. Colangelo in a little bit on this conversation as well, if I may. One of the things that Dan mentioned and that we've been doing at our firm is taking a couple of weeks, we've had the last couple of weeks, and to put the files in what my partner, Gene Pinkus, says is pristine shape. And I was talking to the partners in my firm and kind of facetiously asked, who is ever really ready for trial? I mean, the day you go to trial, there's still a million things that you haven't done, even though you've been working on it, nonstop for 4 weeks and 3 weeks and 2 weeks and that kind of thing. And so this is an opportunity, Dan just said it, to kind of take a minute, look at your files, reiterate that offer, reevaluate the cases. Maybe we took 3 or 4 depositions in the last 3 months. What has it done to change it? And there's some other tools I know that we often look to Magna to. Oftentimes at the very last minute, we're on trial in 3 weeks and we want to do some jury confirm. We're on trial next week and we want to do a jury focus group. So talk to us a little bit about, maybe pushing those evaluations a little earlier now that we have a little bit of time on our hands. The courts are not hearing motions today. They're still getting filed. They're going to get argued at some point, but we have a little bit of time. And how would you recommend perhaps that we think about using this time?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Bob. We've actually had this philosophy at Magna for a long time. We call it early intervention. Some of you may have heard of it, and the concept is that rather than wait, as Bob said, until the eve of trial, you've had 2 mediations that have failed and looks like you can't avoid a jury, then you call the jury consultants to do a focus group or a survey, mock trial, whatever it is. The theory is to avail yourself of some of the online research tools that are a lot less expensive, less time-consuming, to get some of that research done earlier in your case, and now is the perfect time. I wish it were under better circumstances, obviously, but as Bob noted, a lot of folks are cleaning up their files, getting them ready to go as soon as the courts reopen. So sometimes clients say, I love doing focus groups, or I wish I could do that survey, but we don't have the time. We are racing against the clock up against a trial date. Now we have the time to invest in some jury focus groups, some surveys, And all of this can be done online now, so that A, you could have your case ready to roll as soon as the courts open, or B, you can evaluate the case, get an objective assessment perhaps on case valuation from actual community members in your trial venue. You could test out some of your themes, test out your position, strengths and weaknesses on liability, for example, and use that information to put yourself in a better settlement position. So jury research does not have to only be geared toward trial. A lot of our clients are using it for settlement. So figuring out what is an appropriate settlement amount. Is this a case that we need to get settled at all costs because it seems to be a nightmare from the juror's perspective? Or is it one that we should hold our ground on? Do we actually have really good points, and how can we bolster those points to present to a mediator and get that settlement number down? And I'm happy to, if you guys are interested, show you a couple of our online options. I won't take too much of the time here from the rest of the panel, but Bob, if you're interested, I could go through some of those now.
I think this is a very good time. We're going a little bit out of order. We're going to circle back to the depositions, but accommodating Judge Panter, we talked about the mediations, and now we're really at a point where we're talking about mediation, because to your point, Rachel, when you come to a mediation having had some jury focus group, or having some jury consultation, or having some true evidence of evaluation from a community within, the right community that the cases are going to be tried at, it gives you both a lot of confidence, but also a lot of, let's say, arrows in your quiver. So I think it's a perfect time for you to discuss some of the tools that you have available to attorneys like us.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you all can see what I'm describing. A lot of you probably have heard of a couple of these tools. The first one that I want to discuss is our online focus group or mock trial platform. It is called Jury Confirm. If you've ever been to a Magna conference or gotten an email from a Magna IC, you've likely heard of Jury Confirm, but what you likely don't know is that we have just rolled out a brand new platform for these online focus groups or mock trials that we're calling Jury Confirm 2020. So 2020 vision into your case. It is very similar to the online focus group platform that we've been using for over a decade now. This is a tried and true service, but what we've done is added a lot of features that our clients over the years have asked for, things that they want to see, and we've enhanced the platform to really bridge the gap between in-person jury research and online. So you'll have to forgive me just because we're all on Zoom and using up a lot of broadband. I'm not going to show you a live demo. I'd be happy to do that another time, but I also want to keep this quick and just give you kind of a preview of what this looks like. So you've got our virtual courtroom here, and we have mock jurors that will log in from your trial venue or a surrogate venue if you choose. They're all screened and vetted ahead of time. We get you a good cross-section of different demographics, and we can have up to 60 mock jurors log into this platform at any given point. So you see here in the gallery, or the jury box, if you will, our juror avatars. So these are real people that are participating live. They're represented by these avatars, and they're able to view an attorney presentation. So I've just got a screenshot example for you here of an attorney presenting and showing the jurors some of the actual, exhibits in the case. And you, as attorneys, have the ability to control what you are showing to the jurors yourself, or Magna can do that for you. All the while, the jurors are watching these presentations, they're giving us ratings. So if you look down below this image here, you'll see a rating meter with some ratings that are showing up in purple. What this is real-time feedback from these mock jurors. So they are telling us in these moments, how helpful or persuasive do you find this information right now? And all of the jurors are doing this. It's one of the ways that we keep people engaged. I was talking with Bob earlier about how do you stay engaged in one of these online sessions, and this is one of the ways that we ensure jurors are staying engaged, is that they are giving us the real-time feedback. We are able to do some really neat stuff with this juror feedback through artificial intelligence that we've built into this 2020 platform. If you look at the rating meter on this screen, you'll see that there are actually two bars or two lines. One is purple, and that's showing you the average of all of the jurors' ratings, and one is orange, that Magna orange there, and that is a filter that's showing you only the ratings for a certain characteristic of juror. So we have filtered this by education. So we are seeing in orange only those jurors with a high school degree. How are they rating the presentation? And this is interesting because we're able to see, are there certain types of jurors that we seem to be better reaching or not reaching with our evidence and arguments? We are also able to take polls of the jurors. So we're constantly polling them to kind of take their temperature, see how they're feeling about the case. You're able to view those polling results in real time. And then we have the jurors deliberate. So we move into these deliberation or discussion rooms with your set of jurors, and they interact with one another live in this platform. So they talk to each other, they elect a foreperson, they argue, they debate, and they reach a verdict. And I can tell you that we do probably 50-50 in-person and online research, and the quality and the nature of the discussion between an online focus group such as this versus an in-person focus group really is almost identical. People often ask us, well, isn't there something you lose when the people are not sitting around a conference table together? I find that no, you don't. Very quickly, the jurors introduce themselves to each other and they jump right in. They're excited about this process that they're engaging in. They're excited to give their feedback. They hold their ground. They're stubborn. You'll see leaders emerge. All of those dynamics that we see in person, you see emerge in these online deliberations. So we can have a Magna moderator come on the screen, present new information to the jurors in their breakout rooms. Maybe there's something we held back. We want to find out, well, how do they react if we give them this additional information? We can show them all of that in the breakout rooms, and we can also go back and forth between the courtroom and the breakout room. So we could send everybody back into a courtroom, give additional information, go back into the breakout rooms. I mentioned to you the ratings earlier, but one of the neatest features of this new platform is what we call the evidence analyzer, and that's what you're looking at here. While the jurors are rating, while the presentations are happening, the computer or the platform is using artificial intelligence to automatically catalog the highest rated points, the lowest rated points, the biggest jumps, as well as any flags that your Magna consultants put into the recording for you, either in real time or after the fact. You might go back later and say, you know, this was a critical turning point for the jurors, and we put a flag on that for you. So you're able to go back and view this recording, this evidence analyzer anytime, to see some of this juror feedback. So really quickly, other than these online focus groups, there are also these jury evaluator surveys that we do to help get you an accurate case valuation. This is really with the goal of getting cases settled quickly, getting them resolved, closing those files, and opening new ones. So this is a survey that we do of 100 jurors in your venue. We get them to watch a video that describes the case to them. They give us their verdict, and we analyze that data for you in order to give you a range of an objective valuation of the case. Here is what people in your venue think the case is worth objectively. So not from your perspective, not from the plaintiff, but from a group of jurors. What is a reliable estimate of what people think the case is worth? So this is just, these are just a couple examples of ways that you can use online tools to do some of this research right now while you have the time to hopefully get your cases resolved. So I want to make sure that we do segue back to my colleague Ross, who's going to talk more about the online depositions. I know that was a priority for a lot of you joining this webinar, so I'm going to turn it back to Bob and Ross to get back to the remote deposition topic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And but what I just want to say that all of those tools are incredibly important tools that help us evaluate cases, close cases, which is obviously the point that Dan Brunson made. So let's talk a little bit more, Ross, about depositions. We kind of skipped over it because I did want to get to Judge Panter before he left. But to Rachel's point, this is what we're here to talk about. That's probably the most, the most often use that both the lawyers use and that Magna uses as well. The first thing that I want to talk about is just, in this time of emergency, what are the authorities by which we are able to conduct mediations remotely? There are in many jurisdictions requirements that a court reporter be present or witness the witness when they're swearing in and everything. In my jurisdiction, I can tell you that we've been reaching out to plaintiffs' counsel, waiving by agreement, either putting it on the record by agreement or in writing by agreement. I don't think we've had to have a court order by agreement yet, but that's how we're doing it in the jurisdictions in which we practice. What else are you seeing, Ross?
Yeah, and that's one way to do it. We see people doing it by agreement. I know many, many states, California, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Florida, they have all waived the requirement that the court reporter need to be in the same room as the deponent in order to swear them in. What they're usually saying is you can swear in a deponent as long as it's by video teleconference. And obviously then the other option too is if you get agreement by the parties. All right. So people still do it telephonically, but usually the waiver of these rules say something to the effect of as long as it's by video teleconferencing means. So many states have already addressed that. Some are in the process, and we expect more to follow suit. Some already had those rules anyway. So that's really what we're seeing. We're tracking that. And trying to keep as on top of it as we can, because they are coming out slowly but surely. There was definitely a flurry in the last week, but it's working its way through whoever the governing body is that makes those determinations. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just thinking about the various hurdles, if you will, that we have to go through. I've been talking to all the partners in my firm about it. For the most part, as I say, people have been cooperative. Where necessary, I think a motion that would waive that rule for this case, given the fact that there's a case management order in place in a case, that we are obligated by court order to complete discovery by July 31st or whatever it may be. Obviously, things are being put off, but just like everybody else on this call, the courts don't want to be inundated with work because of a lull. And I don't believe that any judge would look askew to the thought that if the parties can conduct depositions in the interim here, we're going to be much better off come July, even if you do have to put the trial off.
And we've been hearing that a lot of places, a lot of jurisdictions, the judges are pushing the trials just off into June and July. So if we wait until this is over, I mean, there's just going to be no way you can prepare in time. So again, most courts are then saying, don't stop working on these. We're going to have trials coming again. They might be fast and furious. So this is the time to get caught up and get all the steps and all you need done.
Here's another question that popped up, which is, we're not in the same room together. How do I know that the plaintiff lawyer isn't texting the client the answers? I mean, obviously every attorney, by the way, it's an unfair question because every attorney is obligated to act ethically, and I know that we all do. But how do you know that's not happening?
We can change the chat functionality on our system. So if you're doing this, you can make it so there's no private chats. So it's only a chat to everybody. So it can be, hey, I need to take a break. Can we finish up in 5 minutes here, whatever that may be. So you don't allow those. Honestly, I mean, they could be texting, they could do something else. It's really, if you get them being the deponent to focus and they're engaged and they're not like looking down and looking around, I mean, you'll probably get a feeling that something's going amiss there, and then you can address it. The other option is pull the camera back so you can see what's in front of them. So it's not just the headshot. If you want to be able to see everything in front of them, you can see whether they're referring to anything. That's another way to handle that.
Wonderful.
There was a question I got with regards to the handling of exhibits. I know you're going to do some when you get going here, but I just wanted to let you, there's many, many different ways to handle it. Okay, there's the ability to just show the documents yourself through a platform such as Zoom or the Magna Legal Vision. Another option is to have a trial manager or a deposition manager For us, it's trial techs. There's no trials. So these trial techs have a lot of time. They can run trial director. They can put your database together for a deposition. They can do the call outs and all of that. And if you're having it videotaped with a videographer, all of that will be saved. There's some other tools that we have that we use in which to allow you to kind of build databases and bring that in as part of one platform. So there's like an agile law type of functionality, and then there's just a singular platform that's going to give you the talking head, the real-time feed, and then the documents as well. So you're able to handle in many different ways, and that's a conversation you may want to have with us. I mean, if it's a simple dep, you may want to run it yourself or have somebody do it for you. But if it's complex, you want to go to trial probably without assistance. And in this situation, I would recommend you do that, the same thing. I know there's some questions about the cost of a deposition manager. They run about anywhere from $125 to $150 an hour. So, it depends on the length of the deposition. And then with regards to the videotaping, so what Magna could do and how we handle it is we use the record function on the device, so on the platform. So we would bring in a videographer who would do whatever it is the jurisdiction requires, from swearing in to reading the whole thing that they have to say at the beginning, to going on and off the record and then pausing the video. And then at the end, it gets packaged into a video file. We can actually sync that up with the transcript if you need it afterwards as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can, I don't want to say skin the cat, but that's the only analogy I came. It's a terrible one, but
let's do this.
Ways to handle it.
We're about 10 minutes from the end, so I want to really talk to Dr. Colangelo when we're done about some strategies for depositions, what she would make recommendations to witnesses and also to the lawyers. But first, why don't we bring in Dr. Evil and show everybody what a deposition might look like.
Hello? Is this on? Hello?
This is on, Dr. Evil. You're here for your deposition. You're aware of that, are you not?
I am. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I wasn't texting with my attorney right before I got on.
Let's make sure we see those hands, Dr. Evil. I want to make sure that you're not. That's right. Now, Dr. Evil, you're being sued by the entire world, as you know, for unleashing the court.
It's a lot of people.
Yes. And the allegation is that you've unleashed the coronavirus on the entire world. Do you deny it?
I don't think that was, it sounds like my brand, but I don't think that was me.
It wasn't you?
No, it wasn't me. Mini-me, was it you? It's my clone.
I see that. Dr. Evil, you have an Instagram account, don't you?
Yes, I do, and I have over 1 million followers.
The name of the account is Dr. Adam and Evil, isn't it?
Right. That's. I thought that was pretty funny and ironic.
You recognize that document, Dr. Evil?
Well, it looks like it's my handwriting, I have to tell you. Yeah, but I don't really think I would have done it so complex. It would have been just like world domination. Really simple.
And this is something that you acknowledge is in your handwriting. Very good. Well, I have no further questions. Plaintiff, you might have some questions.
Well, I was wondering, is there any way that I could maybe have that thing back, because I don't really think that was me. And I don't think I really didn't really have anything to do with this. I think it was Joe Exotic. the Tiger King. He's been getting a lot of attention because he's evil too. So I would like to say that I'm 100% innocent, except for the world domination part.
Thank you. I'll take that transcript, by the way. Ross? That was our example of what a deposition might look like, how you can show witness exhibits, ask questions, change the view, make sure that you're looking straight at the camera. So I thought it went pretty well. Let me bring Dr. Colangelo back into the conversation just to wrap it up, if we can do that. And, this is a new world. We are, one of the things that I think that is going to happen, I know I was talking to Ross, who told me that at one of his mediations, there was a senior vice president from an insurance company who participated and said she rarely goes to mediations anymore because she doesn't like to travel, but if they're going to be done in this manner, that she may participate more often. So I think, notwithstanding the fact that this is imperative now because of our isolation, that we're going to see more and more depositions, mediations, arbitrations, examinations under oath, variety of different, things that we had done in person, now done remotely, and looking to you for some practical, some suggestions, some strategy suggestions for attorneys and for witnesses.
Absolutely. It definitely had some practical thoughts, and I'll go through them quickly. But I do see a logistical question that I think is worth addressing. There's a question about exhibits. Do they all have to be uploaded in advance? What if something comes up, you have to add an exhibit during the deposition? I think that's a great question. No, they don't have to all be loaded in advance. So the exhibit can be shared with the witness live during the deposition, as you just did, Bob, with Dr. Evil. And then the chat feature that we're all using to communicate with one another, you can actually share documents right then and there through the chat feature. So you can say to opposing counsel and everybody else on the line, I'm going to send you a chat either privately or to the whole group, and share that document so that everyone else can have their own copy to download. So that's one of the ways that we are dealing with that. So just really quickly to give some tips on how to approach these remote scenarios. Some logistics. A lot of these we have covered, which is great. I think I'm just going to put these up on the screen so people can kind of look at them. A lot of this is common sense, but you need to make sure you're quiet, location, appropriate background setting, get a great virtual background like Kopka, Pinkus, Dolin, or Magna. Present as if you are in person. And a lot of this advice is for witnesses who are not going to be as familiar with this setting as those of us that are doing this more often over the next couple months will be. So this is advice you can share with not only your colleagues, but also witnesses that, as we discussed, get dressed, sit up, act like there are people in the room with you. Avoid the temptation to be too casual, too relaxed. Constantly look into the camera. This is advice for the witness. This is how they stay focused and kind of stay alert and on point. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security. And my number one piece of advice is to test and practice. Get your witness comfortable with the platform. Do not have them log on to Zoom for the first time when you are going to conduct a deposition. Call your Magna rep or whoever it is, get on a session like this and practice with them. Do your witness prep actually through Magna Legal Vision so that they're very comfortable with the technology, and that avoids the anxiety that they will feel during the deposition, because once they're comfortable, this becomes like second nature. They hop on the Legal Vision session and they can focus on their testimony rather than on the technology. So I'm not going to go through all of these for time purposes, but other things to think about. Video recording makes sense that probably almost every remote depo will be recorded, because why not? It's there. Remote swearing in, we kind of covered that. Discuss with your witness how you're going to handle objections. Making sure a witness pauses before answering a question is critical in the online setting, even more so than in person, because you need to get the opportunity for counsel to object and to address that before moving on. We talked about exhibits and using a technician to handle and mark the exhibits for you, how we share those. And again, preparation. It's really important to practice with the technology. People can be a little bit more relaxed at home, and you need the witness to stay focused on the testimony, stay focused on the question, and listening carefully to the question being asked, not being distracted by technology or other things that might be going on at home. So just a few practical tips and tricks. We actually are we've tweaked our whole witness communication training CLE to focus on this remote environment. So if people are interested in getting a more detailed presentation on advice for witnesses in general, but particularly online, we'd be happy to do that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. We've completed the hour. Ross, you can let me know if there are any other questions that you think that we need to answer.
There was a couple questions with regards to like annotating and interacting. Unfortunately, we only have an hour to go through a lot. So that being said, feel free to reach out to Magna, whether it's myself, Peter, anybody that you know there. And we're going to do our own webinars, just addressing just the deposition and some of that, and we can do them just for firms as well. So just let us know.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank...
Can I give a Magna thank you and a Magna closing, just to wrap it up, if you don't mind?
Nope.
All right, thanks. Well, first of all, Bob, I want to thank you for taking the time to put this together and put together a great seminar. Great job. We appreciate it. I appreciate Dan Brunson, Dr. Colangelo, and I appreciate Ross. Just speaking in terms of the managing the exhibits, that's the hot topic. Everybody's calling us and asking us about exhibits. There's a lot of different varieties, from doing it on your own to having a tech person or using a totally different piece of software outside of the Zoom Magna Legal Vision application. So, there are a lot of ways to skin that cat. But, if you use the totally free Zoom application through Magna Legal Vision to do your deposition, and it's 10 pages or less of exhibits, and you've got an issue, remember, somebody's going to be monitoring your deposition real time. So all you got to do is raise your hand or hit chat and say, tech support, I'm having a difficult time pulling up this exhibit, or I don't know how to mark something, and somebody will get to you. The deposition manager that Ross mentioned, that person would be working solely for the taking attorney, and they would be working with you moment to moment, and that's generally for high volume exhibits, tons and tons of pages. So I just wanted to put that out there, and also we're going to take all the questions that came in through chat. I'm going to talk to Bob, I'm going to talk to Dan, I'm going to talk to Ross, I'm going to talk to Rachel, and we're going to supply everybody with a Q&A. Also, you'll get all the answers if you didn't hear, if your question wasn't answered. I want to remind you that this is our first of what we hope will be many, webinars on different topics, not just online services. And we hope to see you on October 6th and 7th. And if you want to see Ross in your office via the streaming technology, he can do these trainings one-on-one. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bob. Thank you,
Rachel. Peter. Stay safe, everybody.
I hate COVID-19.
Well.